So one of the really interesting things about EMDR, I think, which is one of my primary modalities I've talked about hundreds of times on these videos, one of the cool things about EMDR that I get to see because of how much I get to use it, how prevalent it is in my practice, dealing with trauma, dealing with histories of people, is that sometimes it works in one session and sometimes it doesn't. And I've done a lot of research and studying and trying to understand why that is. And there's lots of different factors. Sometimes it's upbringing, sometimes it's a single critical event, sometimes you've been on the verge of processing that event for so long that it took very little coaxing, and getting that limbic system out of the way with the bilateral stimulation to get you to go ahead and process that. It was just there anyway. But one of the reasons that I see that you'll have this kind of sometimes one-time magic wand EMDR experience versus multiple sessions, or frustrations that maybe it doesn't feel like it's working as quickly as you've heard other people say it works before, is that a lot of people that we work with already have pretty good positive adaptive information resources when they come in. They had a decent childhood, or they've done well in their career, or in their life, or in their marriage, and they're able to draw upon some of those things in resourcing and in finding ways to kind of deal with negative experiences, but they've got just one or two that seem stuck, or one that seems over the top. And they've been able to use those all through life. And some people don't come with those positive adaptive memories, those positive adaptive information. And here's the example that I'll see a lot. Just recently, I attended a seminar in which we do EMDR with some of the people there. And I mean, they'll describe it even as voodoo. It's kind of a one time they sit down with us, they get a lot better. But one of the reasons that I believe that it works so well in kind of this seminar setting is we've done a lot of work of getting them there in the first place. The first day is truly some exposure therapy and getting your story out. You're sitting in a group and kind of telling people what got you there, how this is affecting your life. We've got some group stuff where you kind of continue this exposure. You continue some of this understanding that other people think like you. Maybe you pick up some ideas from other people that have been there, done that, and you get some EMDR. And really, by the time they get to me doing the EMDR, because of how great some of these peers that are facilitating the program do, they're primed and ready. They've already kind of figured out what's the issue, what's the maybe earlier issue or traumatic event in life that they really need to process. They're still hanging on to. I got to give the groups a lot of credit for that. But also, uh, a lot of these folks who are all public safety, military folks, they've dealt with hundreds and hundreds of critical events, and the way they've been able to do that in their life is because they made it to this point, or made it through some of those critical events, by using some positive experiences in the past, by using some of that adaptive information. Because some of the whole point of EMDR is to get some of those early terrible critical events that aren't processing to kind of match up with today's positively, or at least appropriately adaptive thinking, right? How many people I see come out of an EMDR session and they've held on to this, I was a terrible kid, I was a terrible person, I'm a horrible person, for the longest time. And then what you see them kind of walk away with is this realization of, wait a minute, that's not fair. I've done great things. I'm not 3 years or 7 years or 8 years old anymore, being abused by family members and unloved and unwanted and unworthy. I am worthy. I am lovable. I am actually a good person. I've made mistakes, but maybe even the trauma was a big mistake, or something that they have to take some ownership of. But the reality is that we're matching up those old, broken, stuck negative memories with today's adaptive processing. You've made it this far in your life having some type of adaptive processing. Whether it's been healthy or not, it's probably debatable in intricacies. But these people coming in this seminar, they've made it this far in their career because they have good adaptive information processing that's positive. They've just got these things that are either stuck as critical traumas, or They've just got a bucket full of constant trauma and stress, and maybe it isn't the case with some of them. Maybe their childhood set them up for that. I don't think you have to have the perfect childhood, but if you've never felt adaptive, you've never felt loved, you've never felt safe, then you come into these situations already with this very negative, danger, fight or flight mindset for everything. I always say, if you put most of the problems into the understanding and through the filter that the brain's primary function is to keep you safe. Well, if you've never felt safe in your life because you had abusive parents or no parents or neglectful parents, then and extend beyond parents, obviously, but as primary example, if you've never felt loved, you've never felt safe, you've never felt able to get over difficult things, then how do we expect your brain to actually know how to process these difficult things when they happen? And having a good childhood, feeling safe and protected and loved, doesn't mean you're never going to be affected by critical events or traumas. But I often see, and I think the research obviously shows, that when you come into these situations with better adaptive processing models already, then you can deal with the trauma better. So let's go back to the original thought I was having about why does sometimes it feels like it works in one session, sometimes it takes a while. Well, if you already come into the session or sessions, but first EMDR session, and you already have good adaptive processing that's positive, then EMDR almost works like a magic wand. That's what it feels like. One time, two times, and we've got this critical event that's been stuck, or these series of critical events that have been stuck, or this negative cognition about yourself, other people in the world, that processes very quickly because your brain is able to match up through bilateral stimulation, calming down the limbic system, activating both of those hemispheres, that it can take the crappy thing and see it now in the lens of good adaptation. But if you've never had good adaptive processing, anything positive in your life from childhood on, you have nothing to draw upon. So those folks are going to take us a little more work. It's absolutely doable. I see it all the time. That's the complexity, one of the complexity parts of complex PTSD. I think if you have so many traumas in your life, or an ongoing feeling of not safe, your brain's never felt safe, your body's never felt safe, then it's going to take us a little while to use critical events and use positive events from the past, present, and even processing things for the future, how you want them to go, before we're able to get that magic wand feeling. I don't think it's a magic wand. I don't call it voodoo. It is an adaptive information processing system. But if you come in with some of that AI already there, then you're already processing. You've made it this far doing it. Maybe you just got one that's stuck. But if you have none of that adaptive information in a positive way that allows you to process that, what we call that the AIP model, it's going to take us longer. That doesn't mean it didn't work, but I'm going to continue to understand and trust what we're doing in those therapy sessions, and I would hope that my clients do as well, because we're going to reach the point of you being able to adaptively process those yourself. One time feeling of magic wand, or multiple sessions.